You are lying. What were you doing there? Why did you open your legs for him? What did you wear? This one, now one.
I agree with you. I did feel for the Ben Affleck thing, and I do think that we women have to be careful with a certain line that they toe, because that person is coming as an ally. You know, attacking that person is not useful. And I think sometimes the ferocity with which people feel like, oh, my voice is finally being heard, they're lashing out as wounded people and not doing anything constructive, because the conversation or the impact only really gets felt when the men are on board as well. It can't be just the women. That's the reality.
That's also really weird.
What do you mean? Like my parents? My father is from Ibadan, my mother is from Cross River.
Oh, you are mixed race.
The kind of words which they use, the ferocity. Like when Folu they talk, she dey, the multilineal sometimes of my heart. Excuse me. You come easy now.
No,
Madam.
no. But let's think about it, because that you have to feel for men being raised in this era and this generation. There are a lot of mixed signals with young boys. I see when boys are told men don't cry. So you don't just man up. I'm like, but he's a boy. He's not a man. He's a boy.
Men can cry.
That boy is entitled to express his feelings, and you should allow him to. Because whenever you do that and you reinforce in these young boys by continuously calling them men that they have to be hard and they have to be tough and they can't express themselves, then they don't know how to relate to females who naturally are in that space. We are emotionally way more intelligent than men are. And it's problematic sometimes in the way that we communicate, because the way that our male counterparts have been raised is to not feel that emotion, or at least to pretend that it's not there, to not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So they compartmentalize, find a space, bottle it up in there. And it takes years of a guy getting older and wanting, and suddenly realizing that, wait, there's an aspect of me that I haven't really dealt with.
Are you triggered?
You are breathing.
I've spoken to an older.
Don't do it.
I've spoken to an older dude about this, right?
Yes,
And an older guy about this, and he told me his view on it was, it's not about don't feel the emotion. It's about, as a man, which is maybe feeds into the toxic masculinity, whatever, you're supposed to lead, you're supposed to focus on solutions as opposed to, oh, I'm crying because shit is fucked up. That doesn't help nothing. That's what he said. The message was,
you're definitely,
men don't cry.
you're definitely type A.
What does that mean?
Of toxic masculinity.
What's type A? What types are there? I don't even know what types are.
I don't know
So
what
educate me.
I think you're just a man.
What does that mean?
You're like the 90s, you're the Don Draper cigar smoking.
But what I just said right now, does it make sense?
It completely makes sense. I do think, however, that some guys may be capable of interpreting it that way, and after you got a lot older, the reality is in the actions that you see of most young men is they have not got there.
Can I say something?
I accept that.
I don't think
today,
it makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. I accept. I disagreed with her before, but now I accept it doesn't make sense because
Educate me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody has the ability to be a leader. Everybody, when you cry for one day or cry for 3 hours, then you sit down and say, how do I move forward? What is the solution? How do I be solution oriented?
Yeah.
Instead of, it's not a thing.
Yeah,
nobody is saying that you should wallow in sadness. You have to acknowledge that you are unhappy, that something has triggered you into feeling something. Acknowledge the feeling. And then act and move forward. Everybody has the ability. There's nothing in the male gene that makes it more possible for men to do that than women.
I said toxic masculinity. That's wrong. You're of masculinity.
Yeah.
I just use the phrase, not toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
because toxic masculinity is maybe
I was going to say that. I don't think
loose is like the archetype raised to be a man, Nigerian standards. How you deal with emotions, how you deal with confrontation, how you deal with conflict.
Loose is a man's
man. To be a man. And I agree with her completely that in my present time and age and everything, when I look
this
around,
chapter in your life.
yes, what I want to accomplish in life going
what
forward,
old
and the
people
tools I'm gonna need, right? That it's completely useless. I need more empathy, more feelings, more ability to converse and to like, even for my mental health, to emote properly, right? And not to hold on to things. And all those, be a man, all those things, they're completely useless, right? Just for me going forward.
We should all be solution oriented. And another thing is that I noticed this thing that people do where, like, I know that when my dad died, my brother was, I think he was 15. And they did this thing where they were like, you are the man of the house now, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, he's a teenager. also you are completely erasing the fact that there is a fully grown woman who is his mother, who is there as a human being and is capable of taking care of him. Do you understand? Like, so it's twofold. First of all, you are putting so much pressure on a young boy to be a man. And then also
I dealt with this too, so I could understand. Because when my pops passed, my pops passed when I was 22. My eldest brother was 25, right? And I didn't mourn until my uncle came from America and he was like, yo, have you taken these kids to see a therapist? Like, have you spoken to anybody? Because it was automatic. Yo, is he dead or not? He's dead. All right, cool. How do we take care of Momsy? Boom. How do we arrange the funeral? How do we boom, 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 boom? You never took time to sit down and be like, how do I feel about this situation right now? How do, And it's good and it's bad, though.
So does the mother, does she need, I feel like she needs some support. Was there before.
She needs support. So I think that the way
something terrible has happened. Yeah. But the point is that... No, I understand. Yeah, masculinity makes us say she needs a man support and this teenager must become that man. I'm not with you're the man now. Yeah. I'm just saying the eldest child usually becomes the second girl.
No, I understand that because my sister also had to step into a certain role and everything. But at the same time, what I think is that if you love your mom, you will step in regardless. Like, if you love your mom, you see your mom... There were times when I would wake up in the morning. I used to sleep next to my mom. I would wake up in the morning. My mom's not in the bed. She's in the living room crying. Right. Do you understand? And you just go there and you hug her because you know she's going through it. And she's like, my mom was not even working. So she was she was like, where do I get money from? Yeah. Like, first, so I feel like it's a thing of the kids love the mom or the dad. In fact, even if it's switched around and the dad is the person that is the widower. Yeah, he should be fully equipped to take care of the children.
But can I also just say a couple of things? One, I think that in terms of that support system, the whole family should be there. We're Africans. We rarely ever exist in isolation, right? So that support system should come from everybody. It really should. I think that we do have a problem sometimes where we become very selfish and people start looking for their own selfish interests, but that support system should be there. The other thing is, though, I slightly disagree in that Wendy, you mentioned that there's nothing in the male gene that says that they're leaders, and that I disagree with because I do believe that the way that we operate genetically is different, right? I think that women have more of a tendency towards emotional understanding, and there's more of the thought process in how we decide we want to settle down, how we want to live, how things go. There's a lot of planning that goes into it that comes inherently to most females. It's not all of that.
That's more nurture than nature?
No, because we see it even in nature. We see it in animal kingdoms. We see it in the way the male species acts versus the female species. Okay. They're hunters-gatherers, right? And typically the male of most species, they're the ones that just they inseminate, they go. They do all the whatnot, except for maybe in the lions and the lionesses where it's the women that do the hunting and bring food back. But there's still a role that is designated for that. So I recognize that we have different roles. My biggest issue, though, is with recognizing the equality of people's humanity, of that whether or not you play this role or this role, we're still equal human beings and we should be treated equally. I'm not fighting you for a role. If you're more adapted to doing the same way that there are also guys. Yeah. If I marry a chef, for example, best believe I'm not fighting to do anything inside that kitchen. For what? There's already now wake up from outside, be like, it's a woman's job. Excuse me. My husband is a professional chef. You let him be in the kitchen. That was my own in there. What am I doing there? But there are people who, because they can't get beyond what they think is the archetypal role, be like, no, the woman is supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that. No, that's the problem I have. Is that as humans, we're supposed to be more evolved, right? We're in a different space where if I recognize that you have certain strengths, play to your strengths. Stop. Sorry, choose. Yeah. If I recognize that
I think what Wendy's saying, I think what Wendy's point is, which I've gradually, so again, I keep saying this, but we had a lot of conversations and I actually applied a lot of thought. And I would ask you, like, what is the end of this? Like, where does this end? What is the line? What she's saying is that that there will be boys that aren't naturally adapted.
Yes.
And there may be more than you think.
Needs to be space I recognize for them.
Yes.
And that
I agree.
The fact that we say a boy is naturally adapted is false.
Yes.
There may be guys that when I play sports, I'm super competitive, right? But generally, I'm more, especially now. Like, in fact, when somebody offends me over the last 2 weeks, when somebody offends me, let's say I read a chat and I see something that sparks me, the first thing I ask myself is, why do I feel that way? And I found that I haven't, even in my Arsenal group where I normally respond, I'm normally triggered. I just say, why do you feel upset? What is it about what this person said that is upsetting you? Because the person isn't writing it to upset me, and I'm growing in that way. Now, it isn't. Before, I would have thought that the skill set I need is to be able to argue my point better, to be able to, and I found that the more I've done that, the less happy I've become, right? And these sort of set of like of goals that I was supposed to reach as a man, to be the best orator, or the best, being able to walk into a place. I found that the more I win at arguing or at playing sport, the less happy I am, right?
Yeah.
But the more I share, right? And this is just me. There are people that are gonna love to win all the time,
because
right?
if we win, I win. But if I win alone, that's kind of an empty.
I think, and I agree with that completely, to say that, look, the fine line between man and woman, even if it did exist at a time, is no longer necessary for humanity. And humanity has to move past that. And it's okay. It's okay for human beings to grow as human beings and discover who they are and try to actualize. The world no longer needs men to carry a knife and go and stab other men that are fast. It no longer needs that anymore.
Let me say louder for our boys.
Do you know what I'm saying? It just needs you to discover who you are and have freedom in doing that, and actualize.
Yeah, actualize.
And the problem with doing that...
To lose your face, I was going to ask. Now, listen, all this English that Em is speaking, does he practicing this English?
No, listen.
No, because he's here waxing lyrical and it sounds nice.
I want to add one more thing, guys. The problem isn't intrinsic. It's not that when you look at male roles,
Folu
there's something
challenged
wrong.
you with English.
No. But I talk like this all the time. Come on, guys.
You're in your bag, man.
But listen, it isn't intrinsic. What I mean is that when I look at the male roles, there's nothing wrong with the male roles. What happened is that to protect these male roles, we create classes. And many times there's a class system, one oppresses the other. And what we find is that for men to just be like, hey, we just want to be hunters, we just want to be blah, 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 blah. We are the men, we want to be this. What we eventually find is that we win the race of being like masculine and whatever. And then we turn around and we see that our partners on earth are raped, they're sexually harassed, they're denied education, and then when we say, hey, how do we change this around? Then we say, okay, you know what? This sort of division between gender roles is no longer useful. Like it's completely, look, I had relationships before where I really tried in my best way, my most Christian, most loving self, to be a man. And now I'm learning how to just be a human being in a relationship. And the results are completely different. And I'm much happier and much fuller now, where, it's like, are you closer to the door? You go do that. And it's fair. It's just, it's not my role or your role. How could you say this to me? No, if you felt upset by something, tell me. And let me understand why.
Have a conversation.
It's fair. I don't need to be anything more than who I am. Whatever whatever I am is enough.
So I feel like you have things to say.
I don't.
Don't do it, bro.
Do it, Luce.
Do what?
I don't know, talk.
Nah.
I have one more question.
Okay.
And I will ask the group, and I also want Folu to answer as sort of an outsider projecting towards us, right? What do you want the podcast to accomplish this year? I think last year we sort of just started, and we ended up being in a lot of conversations that we didn't see. I think Luce and I thought it was going to be about sports and about hip hop, and we ended up, we ended up being like, we're gonna be men. And then towards the end we're like, I feel like, what is success for you guys? What do you guys see as success end of the year with this platform? And then maybe you could also, someone that's your highest
appearing guest 2 times. Woohoo!
You don't get no cake.
You deserve a cupcake.
Relax.
A cupcake.
I would like this cake, bro.
No, you don't.
Fit fun.
Hey.
Answer. Answer. Come here, answer this Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the conversations we have on this podcast, for the most part, are important. They're important conversations that need to be had, and if conversations bring about education, if the right people who need the information listen. That's too many Sean.
Sean.
So
You're in your bag. In Lucy's bag's like and the. He, she.
Nice one. We got all year, man. All year.
Nigga. Hip hop, rap, basketball.
So
ball, basket, bass.
Be quiet. Let's go.
Are you done?
All. A L B beard girl.
This guy's a waste man, I swear to now you've thrown me off.
The same conversations need to be had.
Yeah, these are important conversations for men especially. Like I always like talking to Folu outside the podcast because she knows something about everything. Right?
Yeah.
She knows something about everything. And Wendy brings a well thought out perspective to conversations that sometimes is actually doper to just listen and you soak up. So I hope the people that listen to the podcast, I hope our listenership grows, but more importantly is bigger than the numbers. It's about educating people and reaching out to people, because I feel like these are important conversations for our age group and people, young guys like us. We need to get in these conversations more. We need to not stand on the sidelines and just be on Twitter having opinions 160 characters. We need to really understand our problems. Oh, it's 280 now. Yeah.
But shock.
I don't know. They haven't given me that. What's up with that?
They've given you.
Okay. They gave everybody, right? Okay.
We all have.
Probably have to upgrade your app.
Okay. I wouldn't know. Yeah. So that I feel like we need to keep on having more important conversations. This podcast has changed my views on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
On a lot of
Agenda.
stuff. Yeah. Your agenda is working.
He's
Don't worry.
walking.
Yeah.
Guys, it's no more gender, so just your app.
Oh my God.
No. No. So my own goals, or where I want to see the podcast going. I think that while we're having important conversations, I'm trying to important conversations that are educative, entertaining, and not I want us to maintain this air of like not shutting people down and stuff like that. So like being more patient and educating people. I think that it would be really cool for us to be the place where people are like, you want to hear sensible conversation where people have different views but are able to have conversation and still arrive at a conclusion at the end. Listen to middle ground. I mean, that's the whole idea. I mean, it's not the original idea, but this is the current idea of the podcast. So, and I think it'd be really cool for, just important, educative, entertaining conversation about the gender roles, yes, but also including like everything else about
Like the last conversation we just had before we started this one.
Yes, including that honest, open conversation about everything, everything, shit, penis and vagina, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I should probably go first because go next because you're the guest. So
Yeah.
She can end it up. I also want us to win. I think that conversations like this happen in like, in isolation. Like it's like the VI crowd or the Lekki crowd, as people say, that are having like this cultural explosion, music, art. But what I bother about is how much of it gets into the pop space, and then the consumership the populace, the majority of people can enjoy, right? And the reason why that's important to me, because I saw my ideas as an artist, when I put them in songs like One Naira or Money Slow to Enter, I would see how it would affect people. And people are like, yo, no one is writing songs like this, right? And these sort of conversations, I mean, shout out to you and what you're doing on your own radio show. And there are these like little spots of excellence in media around. Loose talk, right? With what they're doing, and what they've been able to achieve. Shout out to them. Still coming back for y'all, but I think that like the new school media needs to win, and I would like us to be part of that explosion this year. So also like not Chills and Blinks and Remy and Omis and the other guys, April of course, who are all part of like the show behind the scenes that you guys don't see all the time. Like it'd be good for the podcast to win, and the conversation about culture is going to be very important. People are no longer fighting with hands and swords or even weapons. They're fighting with words now, right? They're fighting with conversations, and conversations become policy. They become mindsets, right? And so for us to be in the front line of the war, as we of the war of mindset, as we go towards the election, I think it's going to be important, for us.
Oh wow, election.
Yeah, it's real stuff. Nah, it's always nice to come hang with you guys and have these conversations. Whether it's I was gonna say on the air, it's not live radio, but it feels very much the same for me. I think things that I've learned not just from hanging with you guys, but also by virtue of what I do, because I deliberately involved myself in media and decided that media was a place I needed to be in because of the impact that media has always had on policies, on government, on revolutions, on the way that the world functions. Wars have always been won with media. Propaganda is a powerful tool, one way or another. And when you have podcasts like this, like The Middle Ground, I think that a lot of the time when you start, you may overestimate what you can achieve in that short space of time. And it was something I spoke about on radio this week, is a Bill Gates quote where he says, people often overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And that's just to lend to the idea of...
They overestimate what they can do in a year?
Yes. And underestimate what you can do in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Because we're very much in an age where people like instant and we like now. We like results straight away. But we forget that with continued just dogged effort and just consistency and you keep at it, the conversations are reaching people. They are affecting people. People are thinking about it. And you're shifting the narrative of what Nigerians are. Not just for Nigerians within the country, but on a global scale, which is very important. Because every time that our media or our young people, or whoever it is that puts out stuff that just pulls down the country and says all the negative things, what you're doing is you're kind of dampening your own future and you're making it almost impossible for you to be excellent. We keep using examples over the United States. That's 200 plus years. Of history, of getting to where they are now. And even at that, the role that Hollywood and their media played is incredible. It's all whitewashed because you go to LA and you're like, there's a lot of homeless people on the streets and no one talks about it outside of the States. In the States, they know.
Everywhere in America.
Everywhere. And it's horrible. But here, today on the radio, people are castigating the government for, you brought people back from Libya, you're not giving them anything. And I'm like, bruh, they brought people back. Let's start from somewhere, because all of us that we were here, we still don't have lights, we don't have this. So things like Middle Ground, I think it's really important what you guys are doing, because you are influential in your spheres. You do have unique viewpoints. And I think if everyone just continues to be consistent in these conversations, you will be shocked at the young boys and girls that are like, yo, I heard this thing and it sparked something in my brain. It affected the way that I view the world. Because this is now our education system. Media is what educates us. It's not our schools anymore. Everyone's on their phones, they're on their tablets. So for me, what I would like to see from Middle Ground is this continuity, is figuring out how it can be better, is figuring out, how are these conversations reaching people, how would they like to get involved. I would like to hear, people off the streets on occasion show up on the Middle Ground, what's your take on this? So that you're always having the discussions that looks at things from all these different angles, but most importantly, real Nigerian youth perspective. So that would be nice if you guys continue in this vein.
Thank you.
I have one question. Should we change the theme music?
Yes. No. Absolutely. I hate that theme music. Isn't the same theme music that another podcast uses?
No.
No, he
I made
created
it right in
that.
front of me. And
Oh,
thought
really?
it was very dope.
Yeah, so I don't understand.
Actually,
now,
actually, that
now
was
his
me.
true
Hey.
feelings.
Yeah, but you know what?
Actually, that was me.
But you know what?
That you made it in front of me.
Yeah, it's not me.
It was
You
me.
didn't
It was
make it
me.
in front of
No,
you.
He made it in front of me. I remember.
No, but he
Anyways.
said that he really liked it. Like he asked who made it, and
No,
then
I
he
I
feel-
really
I
like
feel
your
like it's
earrings.
changed.
I've been looking at how I was going to
Thank
steal
you.
them.
I stole it from
Really?
my cousin.
Okay, so now
Hey,
we're stealing
hey,
this one.
yeah, chills. This is 2018, bro. You've learned so much last year. You know what I mean? Like,
So you don't like it?
No, it's okay to change your mind, but just admit that you changed your mind.
I don't think I've ever said that I like the music.
Whoa. No, you did.
You did.
I did.
Everybody-
You told me that because I played it for you. You told me.
Well,
Guys, listen.
We all agreed
So
to it
awkward.
as
Guys,
well.
listen.
I was excited about
I was a
Yeah.
different man.
it. Okay,
so
we'll,
much.
we'll take that, but
That statement is what I was looking for. That's why I asked.
But yeah, can we change the theme music?
Sure.
Big shout out to the guys behind the scenes, man. Blinks,
yeah,
Sitting
man.
on the floor.
you know,
it's such a dope
Chills.
shirt, man.
Thank you guys.
So nice.
Thank you.
Blinks, Chills, Sheon, Remy.
Yeah.
April, who's in here?
She's not behind the scenes. She's front of the scenes.
Yeah,
She's just
That's
not
all I
here
need. This.
today. April May.
Hi, April.
We love you. Okay. All right.
All right,
that it?
guys. Thank you. First episode done. We love you guys. See you guys
Hey.
soon. See you guys next week.
Happy New Year.
Chills. Can they get this like in the month of January?
You know what? We'll get it tonight.
Sorry.
Hey!
Is it?
Not like that.
Chills.
Okay, so let me just say that
Cut that
please
part.
follow us on social media. We are Middle Ground Pod on Instagram and I think on Twitter as well. I'm not very good at this. This is April's job. middlegroundng@gmail.com if you want to send us emails. And yeah, follow Folu Storms on social media.
Yeah, it's just Folu Storms and
Yeah.
everything.
Everywhere.
CDC.
Follow Loose Canon. It's Loose Canon everywhere. Follow MI.
Everywhere.
It's MI_Baga everywhere. That's it.
Everywhere. Follow Wendy.
Don't do it.
It's Wendy A_. WENDYA
My
underscore.
guy was struggling.
My nigga,
Bro, my guy
I was about to fuck that shit up. WE because I went through the
And my guy was deep in his bag.
The middle ground.